Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So I'd like to welcome all the devotees. Thank you very much for joining today. I'd like to seek your good wishes and your blessings so that we can continue with the study of, or the overview of the third canto, chapters 9 to 11. These are quite challenging chapters. So we'd like to seek the grace of Srila Prabhupada so that we can try to understand with his blessings these chapters and his purports as well. Very helpful to understanding these complicated chapters. And we'd like to seek the blessings of Guru Maharaj so that we can continue on our path of devotion. So, any questions before we start, or any comments? Okay, so yes, Naliman.
Yes, I just wonder about whoever has done about the division of the time. They must have been, I don't know from where they got all this knowledge, but it's amazing how they divide and divide and divide.
It is.
Yes.
And we'll go through that. Hopefully, I've got a little bit of a chart which might make it a little bit more easier to understand, possibly.
Okay.
But it's something that I wouldn't worry if we didn't understand it too much at this point anyway.
Yes.
It's not going to break our like devotion. And it's not going to necessarily assist us too much understanding completely at this point anyway. But it's let's see when we get there. Let's have a look at it. But yes, I note your point. So brief overview up to now. Parikshit Maharaj, in the beginning of the Canto 3, he asks Shukadeva Goswami to describe Vidur's activities, why he leaves Hastinapur after being insulted. Then Vidur travels to the holy places as described by Sukadev, and he meets Uddhav. He inquires about the Yadus, Pandavas, and Krishna. That time they'd left, so Uddhav was feeling great separation from Krishna. And he describes some of the transcendental pastimes of Krishna in Vrindavan, Hastinapur, Dwarka. And he explains that not everybody understood Krishna as Bhagavan. Uddhav also describes the Yadu's past disappearance and how he met Krishna and Maitreya in Prabhash, where Krishna gave his final instruction. They left for the spiritual world. And he tells Vidur as well that Uddhav, that you will be going to Vaikuntha at the end of your life. So Uddhav recalls these pastimes to Vidur, and he makes further inquiries. And out of etiquette, Uddhav refers him to Maitreya. So, but Vidur was overwhelmed by Krishna's remembrance of him at the time of Krishna's return back to Golok. So he went to Maitreya and he asked many questions about the creation and how Lord incarnates, etc. Maitreya was very pleased with these questions, begins to explain how Vishnu awakens Maya Devi and brings into play the 23 elements with their respective devatas. And these devatas pray for empowerment because they can't get it together. They were born separately, so to work together is not so easy, as we know in this world. Then Vishnu enters into, he heard the prayers, he accepted the prayers, he went into the elements, transformed it into universal form, the Vishwarup, which in turn divided into the various Shaktis, if you recall, these Shaktis. And then also the demigods, planets, and Varnas were manifested. Vidur asks about his doubts. He had a few doubts, which Maitreya dispelled very quickly. And then he had lots of further questions, which we hopefully going to keep a track of and see where they get answered. Maitreya then explains the disciplic succession of receiving the Bhagavatam, and then he starts the beginnings of the description of Brahma's birth, his meditation, self-realization, and then finally the darshan of Narayan and the beautiful Vaikuntha planets, which is where we stopped chapter 8. So this is a very nice verse from chapter 9, text number 12. Nati prasidati tatopachito pacharyar aradita suraganer hidi badakame yat sarvabhuta dayaya sad alobhya yako nana janeshu avahita shruta antar amapma.
My Lord, you are not very much satisfied by the worship of the demigods, who arrange for your worship very pompously, various paraphernalia, who are full of material hankerings. You are situated in heaven's heart as a super soul, just to show your causeless mercy, and you are the eternal well-wisher, but you are unavailable for the non-devotee.
So three types of individuals here, and how Krishna deals with them. The demigods, well, they're his servants, absolutely no doubt about it, but they also are full of hankerings, material hankerings. So he's not too pleased with them. He's pleased with the devotees because he's the eternal well-wisher, but he's unavailable for the non-devotees. So that's interesting how he's dealing with them in different ways. So chapter 9. Yes.
Yeah. So the causeless mercy, does it mean that he gives mercy even without we are not asking for it?
Yes.
Yes.
Or you're asking for it, but that's not the cause for the mercy.
Okay.
It's only by his benediction. There's no formula for getting his mercy. There's no formula. All we've got to do is put the effort in, work hard. And if the mercy comes, it's his causeless mercy. If it doesn't come, that's also his causeless mercy.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no reason behind it.
Put the effort in.
You got to put the effort in. Just like the farmer has to sow the seeds. Whether it rains or not, that's not up to the farmer.
Yeah.
He's still got to put the seeds in the soil, hasn't he? So, but then ultimately, whether it rains or not, that's even if he sows the seed, it might not rain. So even if we put the effort, it may not come through. But the Lord is, his mercy is described as causeless, but his compassion is without a second, and Radharani's compassion. So when they see the effort, then the mercy will flow because of their compassion, and especially Srimati Radharani. Does that make sense? Anybody?
Yes, yes.
Thank you. Thank you for picking that out. Very good.
You get that quite a lot, causeless mercy.
Causeless mercy. Yeah.
You get
Because he is so merciful to Ajamil. You know, there was no need for him to be merciful to him, but his mercy was causeless. He's so merciful to Jay and Vijay when they came in the pastime of Nityananda and Chaitanya. There was no need for that mercy, but it was causeless. You know?
Yeah.
This chapter is entitled Brahma's Prayers for Creative Energy. So let's go into it if we can. Yeah. Brahma surrenders, verses 1 to 10. Brahma establishes he's seen the beautiful Vaikuntha. He's seen his darshan of the Lord. So he establishes the all merciful Supreme Lord as Supreme, appreciating the opportunities to take shelter of him. He glorifies his eternal form, full of bliss and knowledge, free from material contamination, and says that those who hear of his lotus feet from the Vedas accept his devotional service, i.e., they take to his devotional service, they serve him. For them, he is never separated from the lotus of their hearts. So he's always with them. Brahma laments for those who neglect Krishna's shelter and thus perpetually suffer material miseries due to their attachment to the perishable concept of my and mine. So these are wonderful, wonderful prayers of surrender by Lord Brahma. And there's further praise. He describes the Supreme Lord's mercy, how he can be seen through the ears by the process of bona fide hearing, and how he resides in his devotees' hearts in the form they desire. This is really phenomenal, these two statements. So we can see the Lord not through our eyes, because our eyes can be very misleading, but through the ears, by hearing bona fide commentaries on the Bhagavatam, by hearing lectures by bona fide individuals. So then we will be able to see the Lord. And he resides in our heart in the form that the devotees desire. So this is fascinating. That's why he has so many different forms. He comes in so many different forms. So this is the kindness of the Lord, the compassion. He'll reciprocate with us as we reciprocate with him. Brahma glorifies the Lord taking shelter of him, i.e., to giving him the mercy to create. So Lord is giving him an opportunity to create. He's not so pleased with demigods, like we saw in the verse, who worship him for material benefits. He's happy with the devotees and unavailable to the non-devotees. Although he is neutral, and what that means, neutral means anybody can become his devotee. Nobody is barred from being his devotee. That's how he's neutral. Once you're his devotee, you become part of his entourage. He looks after you. The Lord acts as time to foil all plans of materialistic people, which we know, right? Time destroys everything. So no matter how much hard work we put into our efforts from the material point of view, it will be completely destroyed at the end, without a doubt. But the spiritual spiritual work that we do never gets destroyed. Brahma begs mercy, praying to the Lord for the ability to create. Brahma begs the Lord to protect him from fall down due to pride and deviation. Because creation is a fantastic art. And Brahma could see that he might become proud because the creation will look fantastic thanks to the Lord's mercy. So he doesn't want to get proud that I have done this. It's a very interesting point. He prayed that the Lord uplift the entire cosmic creation and remove our dejection by kindly speaking his directions. So Brahma was going through a tough time with the creation. So he is asking for the Lord's mercy to help him create. The Lord's blessings. Seeing Brahma is anxious and depressed due to the waters, to seeing the water of devastation, not just the water, but also the winds were quite aggressive. So he was bewildered. Right? The Lord reassured him what he is begging for has already been granted, that by practicing penance and meditation in devotional service, he would gain transcendental vision, self-realization, being able to create and be protected from illusion. The Lord also advised that when he is free from the bodily conception, when his senses are free from all influences of the modes of material nature, he will realize his spiritual form. So Krishna is guiding him from not just the material point of view, but also from the spiritual point of view. From the material point of view, he's going to guide him to create. From the spiritual point of view, the Lord wants him to become free of all the modes of material nature. At that time, he will be situated in pure consciousness. He's also assured that Rajagun will not bind him. So Brahma's prayer was also that, please don't let me be bound by the mode of passion, because the creative process requires this passion to get it built. But he didn't want to be bound by that passion at the same time. The Lord also states, although I am not easily knowable by the conditioned soul, you have known me today because you know my personality is not constituted of anything material. So he's also reassuring Brahma Lord is very, very kind, giving his first employee in this material world a lot of support. Life's purpose to satisfy Vishnu. So this is the last part of chapter 9. The Lord assures Brahma that by his causeless mercy, Brahma was able to offer praise, perform penances, and attain firm faith in him. So this is all, again, Naliven, causeless mercy of the Lord. Causeless mercy of the Lord. He doesn't have to be merciful, but he does because of his compassion. The Lord then offered Brahma all benedictions, which are also open to anyone who will offer prayers and worship the Lord as Brahma did. So this is the point. If we take to devotional service, then the Lord will open all the doors for us. The ultimate goal of performing all transcendental good works, penances, sacrifice, charities, mystic activities, trances, etc., is to invoke the Lord's satisfaction. However, unfortunately, people are wrongly attached to the gross and subtle bodies, but they should be attached to the Lord only. After instructing Brahma in this way, he disappeared. So that was the end of Lord Brahma's darshan of Sri Lord Vishnu. And that's the end of the 9th chapter. Any questions or any comments from reading this chapter?
Prabhuji,
Yes, Naliven.
it says that his Lord is not pleased with the demigods or
Yeah.
always after material things. I didn't understand that. What
Hmm.
do the demigods want?
What do they want? I suppose everyone is different. Indra, he's constantly worried that his position as king of heaven is under threat.
Okay.
He always wants that position. He's very, very attached. That position of Indra is like a post. But whoever's occupying that post becomes very attached because there's so much opulence that he has access to. And he's always worried that somebody will come and snatch this from me. And we see this throughout the Bhagavatam, isn't it? That the Indra will be, the demons will be harassing Indra mainly. And Krishna is known as the friend of Indra. But he's not particularly impressed with Indra because, Indra serves him very nicely. Whoever's taken that post, they wouldn't have that post if they didn't serve nicely in that position. But unfortunately, they are very attached to that position. They're not attached to the Lord, but they're attached to that position. And that's the case for many of the demigods. There are very few who actually are attached to the Lord. And one of them who is attached to the Lord is Yamraj, and he's one of the Mahajans. He's got a strong attachment for Krishna. He's not so much attached to his position, but he's much more attached to the Supreme Lord. So with him, Krishna is very pleased. But with the vast majority of the other demigods, they've attained that position. They're just like us, but through great pious activities in their previous lives, they've attained the position of demigod. But they're not necessarily pure devotees of the Lord. They are devotees, but they also have these strong material inclinations. So Indra is more of keeping his position. The other demigods generally are to enjoy the heavenly delights. There are immense heavenly delights in heaven, and they have this tendency of wanting to enjoy those heavenly delights, as well as serving the Lord. But it's sort of the enjoyment factor is much more than the service factor.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we'll see that in the Bhagavatam later on. We'll see how Indra, how he behaves when he's threatened. It's really, really bad behavior. So,
Okay, Prabhuji.
okay. Anything else? Anybody else?
Yes, Prabhu.
Hare
Hare-
Krishna.
Hare
Sitaram.
Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Hanuman is a good servant of Sri Ramji. He's attached to Bhagwan Sri Ram.
Yes.
Documents.
Yes, yes, yes. Absolutely. But he's also not necessarily a demigod, right? He's not in charge of any specific post. He is just the greatest servant of the Lord. Absolutely. He's got no desires materially.
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But he's not, I wouldn't classify him as a standard demigod, like the one who has a function in the administration of the universe. Demigods are generally those who have some role to play in the creative or the maintaining or the destroying process. Like in every government, there are different posts and people fill those posts. So in the same way, souls will fill the posts of demigods to help the Lord with administrating the universe. But that doesn't make them, just because one is a government minister, it doesn't make him loyal to the government necessarily, right? They have their own agendas. So sometimes the demigods have their own agendas of enjoying materially. And they may not be fully Krishna conscious, if you like. Is that okay, Sitaram?
Okay, Prabhu.
Okay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So Indra is just a post, right?
Yeah.
It's not a name, right?
Yes.
And is it that after this Manvantara changes,
Yes.
Bali Maharaj will become Indra?
Yes. That's it. Absolutely right. Well done, Maji. Very good. That's correct. That's correct. That's his post. But that Indra, Bali Maharaj, he's a perfect devotee.
Yeah.
A perfect devotee.
Because this Indra, he always commits some mistakes, always scared of his post and always doing nonsense, right?
Yeah, he's
okay.
Yeah, he's the thing is,
but then he is always protected because Lord Krishna promised what is it? Aditi?
Yeah, that's right.
Yes, that he will always protect her sons. Yeah,
that's correct. And for Indra, for all his craziness, deep down there is still he's a devotee of God, definitely. But
yeah.
like we've all got these little peculiarities, I have anyway. Deep down we got the devotees of God, but we show it in funny ways sometimes.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Maji. Okay, let's have a look at chapter 10. So this verse is the second verse of chapter 10. Ye cha me Bhagavan prasas Tava atha bahu vittama
Tanvadasvanubhuyavena Chindina sarva samsayam. O greatly learned one, kindly eradicate all my doubts. Let me know of all that I have inquired from you from the beginning to the end.
So this must be Vidur, right? I love his questions. Vidur inquired, so the title of the chapter, Divisions of the Creation. And this particular section is Creation of the Planets. Vidur inquired how Brahma created the bodies of the living entities from his own body and mind. It's quite bewildering. Maitreya enthusiastically answered, Brahma engaged himself in penance of devotion for 100 celestial years. Then Brahma, having matured in practical knowledge, drank. This is the point in Indulekha you were making. Drank the wind and water of devastation that threatened his position. After that, he divided the lotus wall eventually into the 14 planetary system. So this is where this 14 planetary systems come from. The lotus roll and the universal form as well. Time moves on. So this is a section which Maitreya just hints about it, and then he'll talk about it in great detail in the next chapter. Maitreya spoke about time in several places. Chapter 8. So Vidur asks him about eternal time. So he describes the characteristics of time. So Maitreya says, it's a source of interaction of modes. So this is part of the characteristics of time. It makes the modes interact. Lack of attributes, so it doesn't have any qualities in one sense, attributes, and thus it's imperceptible, very difficult to understand. It's limitless, without beginning or end. It separates the material energy from the Lord. So that's one of the functions of time, separates the material energy from the Lord. In time, everything happens. Divides the universe into various battery systems. I'm not sure about battery, various planetary systems. That's supposed to be planetary systems. Unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Lord. So time is very impersonal, very impersonal. Objective manifestation or representative of the Lord. Causes the universe to appear in the present as if it was in the past and shall be in the future. So these are different characteristics, which Maitreya just gives a hint to Vidur. And then, having described time in general, Maitreya will describe time in detail in chapter 11. So we can go to that in a little while. Okay, now this is quite complex area. The creation and the primary and the secondary creations, the Sarga and Visarga. Okay, firstly, Maitreya describes three types of annihilation, right? So there's three types: eternal time, through the material elements, and through our work, quality of our work. So what are these three types of destruction? Kala, time, due to eternal time, devastation of all universes, end of Brahma's life. So this is one of the devastations that can take place. At the end of Brahma's life, everything is completely finished and it goes back into the body of the Lord. Second type of devastation is due to the material elements. At the end of Brahma's day, there's a fire and there's a flood at the same time. The fire emanates from Sankarshan, who's an expansion of the Lord, destroys the lower planets from heaven downwards. The top, I think it's 3 or 4 planets, they stay unaffected, except the fire is so hot that the residents, I think, of Janalok go up to Tapalok. They fly up to Tapalok to avoid this fire, the heat from the fire. So that's another type of devastation. This is complete devastation, Kala. Drava is a partial devastation. And then you've got the guna, the activities, our own actions. Due to our own actions, consumption of our own body, we're destroying, it's a form of annihilation. So that's subjected to us, basically. Okay, and then he talks about 10 types of creation, of which 6 are divine, right? Natural creation, i.e. Initiated by the Vishwarup or Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. And they are Mahatattva, which is the ingredients of material nature, false ego, the sense perception and elements, knowledge, working capacity, demigods and mind, the ignorant darkness of living entities. So these 6 are here. So types of primary creation. So this is inertly from the Lord, right? The Mahatattva, the sum total of material ingredients, the false ego, different things from that. So objects of the senses, and then the senses themselves, the eyes, nose, etc. And then touch and all that. The devatas, they come from the Mahatat, the Vishwarup, and then ignorance also comes from there. So these 6 are not creations of Brahma, they're creations of Vishnu. And then Maitreya describes 4 more. So he's described 6 types of creation. He's saying there's 10 in total. He describes another 4, which is actually the work of Brahma. Brahma utilizes the Lord's ingredients to create various bodies for the living entities. So these are the 4, the plants, immovable things like plants, lower entities like animals and birds, human beings, and devatas, demigods. So here we go. Immovable jivas, so plants, the characteristics are not very conscious, etc. They don't feel much pain. And there's 6 types of those. I'm going to share these slides, so I'm not going to go through it in any detail, but there's quite a lot of detail that's given. Then there's the lower species animals, the characteristics. There's 28 types. You know, the hoofed, one-hoofed, two-hoofed rather, 5-clawed birds. There's a lot of detail, and their characteristics are here as well. They're preoccupied with mating, eating, sleeping, defending, etc. They understand their needs by smell. And then the human beings, we sort of got an idea about ourselves, passionate, dedicated to work, think themselves happy, even in distress. Only one type of human being. And then the demigods, 8 types. There's different types. There's the Vibhudas, the Prithris, that's forefathers, the Asuras. Asuras are simply the brothers of the demigods. The demons are the brothers. Gandharvas, Yakshas, Rakshasas, Siddhas, Bhutas, Petas, Kinnaras, all these different types. We'll see a little bit about that in future cantos. But there's 8 types of demigods as well. Okay, so I hope that hasn't blown everybody's mind. Then Maitreya Rishi describes the descendants of the Manus and time, right? This is where it gets very interesting. So any questions there? Anybody alive?
Yes, Prabhuji. I was reading text 9, the purport of text 9. I could not understand one thing.
Only one thing, huh?
Yes. Yeah, as you were just saying that these lokas like Maharlok, Tapalok, Satyalok, and Brahmalok, they did not dissolve in the devastating water. So one thing I could not understand.
Yeah.
So it is saying that still higher planets such as Maharlok, Tapalok, Satyalok, and Brahmalok do not dissolve in the devastating water. This is because of the causeless devotional service rendered unto the Lord by their inhabitants, whose existence continues up to the end of Dviparadha time, when they are generally liberated from the chain of birth and death in the material world.
That's
so
right.
These living entities, to my understanding, is they lived in the material world until they get purified, and then they move to those lokas.
What happens is that those souls are they're like the Bhrigu Munis. They're the really elevated souls who live in the Janalok. And when they see the lower planetary systems getting burned and they feel the heat from Shankarshan, they take the planes up to the next Tapalok, I think, and Satyalok as well.
Satyalok, yes.
So they stay there until Brahma's day begins again, and then they go back to wherever they were. At the end of Brahma's life, they are liberated. At the end of Brahma's life, those sages go back to Godhead because they're already self-realized.
Okay.
Their main function is to actually give protection to us effectively, like the Saptarishis. They live there.
Yes. Okay. Okay. So because I could not quite, it was not quite clear for me when he says that when they are generally liberated from the chain of birth and death in the material world. So after getting liberation from material world, then they moved there and they stayed there in the higher planetary, like
Yes.
Maharlok, Tapalok, Satyalok, and
Yeah, because they are already at that level.
okay.
They are great sages. They've already understood they're engaged in devotional service. They've understood the position of the Lord. They've understood themselves. But their main function of remaining in this world is for the benefit of us
Okay.
on Earth, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's right.
Thank you. Thank you, Babaji.
Thank you very much. Thank you for again analyzing it so nicely. Very, very good. Very good. Very impressive. Anybody else? Okay. So let's go into chapter 11. Okay, we got time. Sure. This is going to be a quick session. Let's have a look at this verse. 3:11, 39. Kaloyam paramanuvandir viparadhanta ishvaraha
Naivisitam Prabhu Bhumna Ishvarodama Maninam. Eternal time is certainly the control of different dimensions, from that of the atom up the superdivisions of the duration of Brahma's life. But nevertheless, it is controlled by the supreme time, by the supreme. Time can control only those who are body conscious, even up to Satyalok or the other high planets of the universe.
Right. So time can control only those who are body conscious. So if the more we become God conscious, the more we'll be under the control of the Lord, Krishna. And once we're under the control of Krishna, under the shelter of Krishna, time can never affect us anymore. Right? It cannot control us. Then it's just the causeless mercy of the Lord that controls us. This is quite an interesting point. So Brahma's life is very long, but it will end. And if he's not a devotee, then 311 trillion years will pass like that. Similarly, our 100 years maximum will pass like that if we waste time. But if we control the time, if we become devotees, then, and we've noticed that in our daily practice, right? If we chant, the more bhakti we do, somehow Krishna gives us extra time. He extends the day, gives us the time to complete what we want to do. And that's quite extraordinary. I've noticed that quite a lot, especially in recent times. Chapter 11, calculation of time from the atom. That's the, even the name of the chapter gets you thinking. Okay, the themes, atoms to orbits. Firstly, Maitreya describes the division of matter as time and matter. Time and space are two correlative terms, as time is measured in terms of its covering a certain amount of space of atoms by the movement of the sun. So this is quite important to understand if we want to understand this concept of time within this chapter. Time is relative to the distance of the amount of space of atoms by the movement of the sun. So this we'll go into a little bit more detail. The atom, paramanu, is material manifestations, ultimate smallest particle, right? Atom is the smallest particle, which is indivisible and invisible. There are innumerable such particles, unlimited, right? Trillions, you can forget even in any numbers. It's just amazing amount. The totality of all the atoms is regarded to be the greatest particle of matter, as the Parama Mahan. Just as matter has small and big divisions, time also has similar divisions. Time is potency of the all-pervading Lord. Atomic time is measured by the movement of items, which expands to months, seasons, and years. Our month, 1 month is equal to 1 day and night on Prithvilok. So 12 of our days, 12 of our months are equal to 12 of their days and nights. 1 year equals a day and night of the demigods. So demigods' time is much, much longer. So 1 year of ours is equal to 124 hours of the demigods. So you can see time is relative depending on where you are. And Lord Brahma's time, it's 1 second, I think it's 100,000 years. Powerful time measures out the living entity's life and holds the planets in orbit. So this is a little idea. This chart, we've got it in one of our study books. It's the divisions of time. Now, this is not easy to understand. It's not necessarily crucial to understand this to continue with our devotion. And certainly we will not go to hell if we don't understand this. So please don't worry. But if you do want to understand this, there is a lot of detail available on this. And you can see how time is so minutely dissected, right? This Truthi is 13,500 second. That's almost, you couldn't even work it out in Western context. And then these other 100 Tuthis is equal to a Veda, which is 135 seconds. Lava is 3 Vedas. 3 lavas is Nimesha, which is 8/5 of a second. 8/5 seconds. Kashta is 3 of
I think we would know everything from Murat onwards.
Yeah, Murat is 2 dandas, but I'm not sure why it says 1 hour, because Murat is 48 minutes. Yeah. Anyway, not sure about that one.
Prahar, we've heard of that.
Yeah. So I wouldn't get too hung up on this. This is effectively what's described in verses 5 to 12. So if he doesn't give the seconds, because the Srimad Bhagavatam doesn't deal in seconds, but here are the measurements in seconds, right? It's said that if one has a association with a devotee, I think it's a lover. If you just have that much of association with a pure devotee, you can be liberated.
Yeah, Chaitanya, in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Lord Chaitanya says, Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Sabikoi, Lava Matra.
That's it.
So it's like a few seconds, right?
No, it's 8/45 of a second.
Wow.
Yikes. Yeah. Thank you for that sloka. Yeah, very good. Sorry?
And seasons, actually, that relates to the Bharatya. That's
2 months, yeah, 6 seasons.
They have 6 seasons.
6 seasons, yeah. Okay. How's Nani been doing?
I'm amazed at how people have calculated this. I'm amazed at their skill.
Correct.
My head's off to them. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I agree. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
And the Murat, is it what the Murat that we Shubh Murat and Ashubh Murat? Is it the same?
Yeah.
That's
so
correct.
one Murat is about
48 minutes.
48 minutes.
I'm not sure why they've got an hour there. I think that might be a mistake.
Murat is 40. That's what I thought. 48 minutes. Okay.
Yeah. They don't usually make mistakes, so it might be just something that we've not understood properly. We'll check that actually and see what it is. But yeah, this is essentially what these 8 verses talk about. is quite intense. We don't have to worry too much unless you want to get into the detail. There are people who like to get into the detail. I certainly would not worry too much at this moment in time. Is that okay? Anybody want to understand that a little bit more? Okay, good. Okay, then next 7 verses. The sun should be worshipped every 5 years, as it enlivens us with its heat and light, whilst reducing the duration of our lives, and thus our release from material illusion. So we have a lot to thank the sun. The more every day passes, we hopefully getting closer to getting away from our material illusion and becoming closer to Krishna. The 4 ages, Satya, Treta, Dwapara, Kali, together last over 4.32 million human years, and they're equal to 12,000 years of the demigods. Over the course of the ages, religious principles gradually decline. So we've done this in previous seminars, and I'm going to bring those notes up, and we just have a quick look. Hopefully it won't complicate things. One mantra we'll look at in a few minutes. A yuga is, a Mahayuga is all 4 yugas together. It comprises 4.32 million years. And we know this, right? We know Kali Yuga is 432,000 years, of which about 5,000 has passed. And Dwapara is double that. And Treta is triple Kali Yuga. And Satya Yuga is 4 times Kali Yuga. So they reduce in age. As the piety reduces, the number of years reduce. So Satya Yuga is the longest because people are very pious in that year. And then as the legs reduce leg by leg, the ages reduce in years. And it said, our Guru Maharaj was very clear about this. Kali Yuga is eating its life very quickly, and Kalki should appear soon. So he was very, very clear on that. And we are seeing that, right? We're seeing the impact of Kali, how this corona is having such an impact throughout the world. So there are 14 manus, and let's come to that in a little while. One kalpa, this is quite an important word to remember. Kalpa is a 12-hour day of Brahma, and that's equal to 4.32 billion years, right? There are 14 manus in a 12-day. 14 manus means there's 14 different creations going on in one day of Brahma, one 12-hour day of Brahma. And there's gaps in between these Mahayugs. This is where the 1,000 yugs come from, Mahayugs. This is 71 times, 71 is the Mahayugs in one mantra, times it by 14 manus, that gives us 994. And we add another 6 sandhyas. Sandhyas are gaps in between the Mahayugs. So that's where the 1,000 yugs come from. That 1,000 yugs is stated in the Bhagavad Gita by Lord Krishna to Arjuna. So then, carrying on with the Bhagavatam, back into the Bhagavatam, duration of the manus. So Maitra Rishi is going to talk about these manus now. So the 1,000 times the 4 yugas comprise a day of Brahma. That's the kalpa, one kalpa, 12-hour day. And another 1,000 yugas are his night. So as long his days are, his nights are the same. So 12 hours, 4.3 billion years, daytime and nighttime. The creation is manifest and active during his day. And 14 manus rule the universe during that time. Ruling time of one manu, 306 billion years. And there's 71 Chaturyagas, the Mahayugs going around. After the dissolution of each Manu, the next Manu comes along with his descendants who rule over the different planets and the same 7 famous sages, that's the Saptarishis, and demigods like Indra all appear simultaneously with Manu. In each and every change of Manu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead appears by manifesting his internal potency in different incarnations as Manu and others. Thus, he maintains the universe by discovered power. That's text 27. This is quite complex. So again, don't need to worry too much about it. The Lord in the form of, this is describing Brahma's night, in the form Kalagni Rudra, destroys the 3 worlds at the end of Brahma's day. The jivas remain merged in that dissolution and everything is silent. The sun and the moon are without glare. During this time, the residents of Mahalok, distressed by the fire emanating from the mouth of Sankarsan, move to Janalok. At the beginning of devastation, all oceans swell and cover the 3 worlds. Garbhodaksha Vishnu remains in that water, lying on Ananta, being glorified by the sages of Janalok. Okay, there's not that much more now. Okay, it's not more. One's life endures for 100 years in terms of time in different planets. Brahma is halfway through that allotted time, 100 years of life. So our Brahma, our universe, he's just finished 50 years. He's in the first day of the 51st year, which although very long from human calculation, only a brief moment for the Lord. Lord's 100 years is equal to 311. Brahma's 100 years are equal to 311 trillion 40 billion years. We are in the first day of the 51st year. So not to go into too much detail, all I'm going to tell you, after all of this calculation, it is approximately 11:28 in Satyalok, in Brahma's first day, 11:28 a.m., in the first day of this 51st year. Okay? If anybody wants to know. But we've done a calculation of that. And we can pin it down to the second as well, if we had to. Oh yeah, and that's the calculation. So in this day, so far, 6 manvantras of Brahma, 6 manvantras have passed. We're in the 7th one. Mind-blowing stuff. The first day in the second half of life of Brahma is known as Varaha millennium because the personality of God appeared in that millennium as a hog incarnation. We'll talk about him next week or tomorrow maybe. The duration of 2 parts of Brahma's life, as mentioned above, is calculated to be equal to 1 nimesha, less than a second. Sheesh. For the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is unchanging and unlimited and is the cause of all causes. So 1 second for him is equal to Brahma's 311 trillion 40 billion years. Eternal time controls all living entities in the function of the universe with all its massive coverings. However, time can only control those who are bodily conscious. This phenomenal universe is expanded to a diameter of 4 billion miles. The layers or elements covering the universes are each 10 times thicker than the one before. And all the universes clustered together appear like atoms in a huge combination. Yet everything in creation is controlled by the Lord, who is the origin of everything and the cause of all causes. So that's the end of 11th chapter. Whew. Any questions? Naliben, are you still with us?
Yes, just listening, not thinking.
It's mind-blowing.
Yes, it is.
Everybody is gobsmacked.
But it shows the greatness of the Lord. This is Brahma's life is so huge, but that's 1 second for the Lord. So who are we in comparison to anyone? And we think we're the center of the universe, don't we? Everything revolves around us. Anyway, I'll share the notes. And we don't have to, as I said, we don't have to worry too much about these chapters. These are chapters where devotees get stuck and stay stuck for a very, very long time. So please don't get stuck here. So, Indulekha, shall we go through these lessons?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you for sharing the notes, because if sometimes somebody asks us what is a lava, what is a
Yes.
So we know we have a notes, we can get reference from there. Thank you for that.
Yeah, I agree.
So, yeah. Srimad Granth Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. So lessons on Canto 3. So far we have up to chapter 8. And chapter 1, if we make our home a temple, the Lord will definitely visit us. Chapter 2, in this age of Kali, our only tapasya is to chant the holy name of the Lord. Chapter 3, we all need a guru to guide us on the spiritual path. Chapter 4, no matter how learned one may be, one should not try to instruct someone who is well versed in spiritual knowledge and who is older than them. And chapter 5, the Lord's external energy is Maya, and through her the entire material world is created. Chapter 6, we should always engage in discussion of the activities and glories of the Lord, which are nicely written by the sages for our benefits. Chapter 7, by serving the spiritual master, one develops transcendental ecstasy in the service of the Lord, who vanquishes one's material distress. Chapter 8, the Supreme Personality of Godhead spoke this Srimad Bhagavatam to the great sages for the benefit of those entangled in their material miseries. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Ms. Okay. Whew. Instructions. Madhusun Prabhu.
Hari Bol Navi, Hare Krishna. Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai. Jai. These are amazing parts of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And you can really, like you say, it is, mind-blowing, because we can't comprehend all these concepts. But, in one of the purports, I think there is, a lot of credit goes to some scientists like Archimedes and all that. But in one of the section where Prabhupada, where we're talking about the time concept, where they how to measure what is called a danda. And that's also described how you can make a little copper pot of certain dimension, pierce a hole in it. Then by the time the water gets filled and it gets overfilled, that time is called danda. And it's like an hourglass, really, where they got this hourglass for sand glass. And a similar sort of thing, a concept. But Prabhupada says that there was no need of physics, chemistry, biology, or anything in Vedic times, because every knowledge just come from the Vedas, and there was no need for this physics. Everything is there. It's very scientific, as we talked about. Even in chapter 11. So I'll just go through the instruction anyway. So we should at least know the main instruction. Chapter 9 is that the incarnations of Vishnu, who appear at different ages and time, are never to be compared to the conditioned souls. The Vishnu Tattvas are not to be compared to deities like Brahma and Shiva, nor are they on the same level. So anyone who compares them is called a pakhandi, or an infidel. I don't like the word infidel, because some part of the communities, refer, besides them, everybody else is an infidel. But here it's described that if you know, who is a Pakhandi. But anyway, we should not, this is the instruction main. Chapter 10, where Maitreya is actually saying how eternal time is the primeval source of the instructions of the three modes of interactions of the three modes of material nature. It is unchangeable and limitless, and it works as an instrument of the Supreme Personality of Godhead for his pastimes in the material creation. So we should be aware of how these divisions of the creations take place. First, by the external energy of the Lord, like you said, the first creation, like time and intelligence and knowledge acquiring and capability were created by the Supreme Lord, by natural, and then Lord Brahma creates the other parts when he is given the knowledge and the ability to create after he has prayed to the Supreme Lord, and then when he sees how the lotus flower extends into the whole universe, and each petal of the lotus flower is all like different creations and low planetary systems and everything, and he starts to create. So we should just be aware of it. But like you say, all the great details, if you want to know, then it's all there. But we don't have to be so engrossed in all that. Our main aim is to basically understand how magnanimous and how great the Supreme Lord is, Chapter 11, just as in modern science, the atom is accepted as the ultimate individual particle of which the universe is composed. Even the scientists have come to the conclusion, that, the atoms, they thought the atom was, their concept of atom was that the atom is the smallest indivisible particle. But later on, they found that the atoms are actually made of electrons, protons, neutrons, positrons. Even now, they're not sure really what the nucleus is composed of. So many other particles in there. But here in Srimad Bhagavatam already tells us, an anu is an atomic particle. And when I used to teach science, and I used to tell some of these in Sanskrit and Srimad Bhagavatam, the Vedic literatures describe the atom or the atomic theory there, they just wouldn't accept it, So it's actually, Srimad Bhagavatam, it also says the full text of all descriptions of knowledge, including the theory of atomism. Prabhupada used the word. Atom is the minute, subtle form of eternal time. So he used to measure time by the movements of the particles within the atom, so it's amazing. Everything is here, in Srimad Bhagavatam. But really, how glorious the Supreme Personality is,
Thank you.
Okay, so I think that's the instruction. Basically, we should just have understanding that even modern science today is lacking in so much, which the Srimad Bhagavatam actually gives the knowledge of. Okay,
Yes,
hope
thank
that.
you. Thank you very much, bro. Thank you. Any questions, any comments? Sitaram, would you like to, anything you would like to say? Okay. 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 Anybody else? Otherwise, we can call it a day. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.